makes a lot of money, what that essentially signals is, unless he's a nepo baby, is that he's competent, he's disciplined, he's a hard worker, and those are all, of course, valuable traits. I am not here at all to say that you should want a man who's incompetent, undisciplined, and lazy and makes no money at all. What I am saying is that if you are an average young woman in your 20s or 30s and are looking for men in the same age group, there is an infinitesimally small chance that you're going to find a man in your age group who makes six figures, let alone a wholesome man who wants to be monogamous who makes six figures.
Welcome back to Money, Marriage, and Media. Today we are with Jasmine Theodora. Now, I've never seen this lady or her videos or her channel or anything. This video popped up on my on my main page, and it's called "High Value Men Are Overrated." Now, this is something that I personally agree with, just for the simple fact that these men represent such a small percentage of the population that in most cases, most people will never come in contact with them. But yet, if you watch YouTube, the relationship part of YouTube, these men constantly get talked about. So it's like, okay, at what point are we going to start addressing actual topics that are going to help improve our community? Because high value men is not one of them. There's just not enough of them to go around, right? So I'm thinking maybe we'll probably hear some of that. But it's always good to see if I could be wrong, but I always want to hear if somebody else agrees with me. So let's go.
People, of course, have different definitions of high value man, but the most prevalent definition I see online is a guy just being an above average earner with a high status. That's essentially how Kevin Samuels, may God have mercy on his soul, and the Red Pill Manosphere Collective talk about high value men. In fact, Kevin Samuels had 6 specific factors that he used to qualify a man as high value. If you're a high value man, then you, according to him, have to 1, make at least $120,000
I remember it being
a
more
year,
than 6.
2, for at least the past 3 to 5 years, 3, have group acceptance from other high value men, 4, network with other high value men, 5, have the reputation as a high value man, meaning having your income and public image linked, and 6, have utility, meaning that you're useful to others.
Okay, yeah, those I do remember him talking about those, but I also remember him talking about I think those are when he first started, because I remember there was a time right before I stopped just watching him because I'd heard enough at that point. But he had added 4 more characteristics, and you guys heard me talk about this before. Well, this is where I get it from. He talked about the dime. The man, high value men are going to be self-disciplined. They're going to have integrity, morals, and ethics. And he was very direct when saying that if the men that are claiming themselves to be high value do not possess these 4 characteristics along with the other 6, they're not high value. They're just, the impression I got was these are just some rich guys. So I understand where she's coming from. It's a little, I get why she's saying that, because, if I Google high value man right now, I'm pretty sure those 6 things are going to come up. But, I don't think Kevin, before his untimely demise, spent enough time talking about the dime with them. But that's where I get it for everyday man, because, the part about being high value is, she listed those 6 things. Those have to do with making an extreme amount of money. There aren't enough resources out there for the majority of people to get anywhere close to that. So what does that mean? What can you do as an average man to increase your value? Well, that's where we get the dime: self-discipline, integrity, morals, and ethics. But let's keep going.
Being a high value man in this vein has very little to do with character. If a man makes a lot of money, what that essentially signals is, unless he's a nepo baby, is that he's competent, he's disciplined, he's a hard worker, and those are all, of course, valuable traits. I am not here at all to say that you should want a man who's incompetent, undisciplined, and lazy and makes no money at all. What I am saying is that if you are an average young woman in your 20s or 30s and are looking for men in the same age group, there is an infinitesimally small chance that you're going to find a man in your age group who makes six figures, let alone a wholesome man who wants to be monogamous who makes six figures. The average 25-year-old man
I
in the
agree.
US at least makes $40,000 a year. The average 35-year-old makes $60,000 a year. And this is probably
I don't know where she's gotten those numbers from because no, I've shown you guys on this channel multiple times that she's probably talking about the national statistics, but I've told you guys why those numbers are unreliable. Reason being is because they include high net worth individuals, right? But these individuals do not live in every state. So when you poll the US as a whole, their income significantly raises the amount that average people are making. Prime example is I live here in this great state of Georgia. And in the state of Georgia, the average man makes 37. The average woman makes 26. Now that's a big difference from what she's talking about because you can see in the caption the average 35-year-old makes 60, and that's probably before taxes. The average 35-year-old is not making 60 because that may be if you live in a major urban city, then yes, but most people don't. Most people living in small cities and towns where the biggest employer might be the local Walmart. Say that now, if you start thinking about it like that, who's making 60 in the Walmart? It ain't but a handful of people. It's the same thing when you go to other places that like, people just are not making money like that. I know we like to the when you start looking at national numbers, it seems like that. But the other thing that never gets talked about is, well, you know what? This is not a video about money. We'll have to probably make that video at another time. But let's keep going here.
before taxes. Only about 10% of men, in the US at least, make six figures. 10%. And you better believe that most of those men are not that young. It takes time to get that kind of income. They're probably at least 45 years old, if not in their 50s.
They are in their
And
50s.
unless you want to have a pretty large age gap marriage, I'm talking 10 to 20 years, which most people don't want because they want to experience all the different seasons of life together, then you should probably consider more regular so-called average men. I see a lot of women online pining after the top, not even 10% of male earners, but the top 5%, men who make at least $200,000 a year. Women who think that being with a regular dude is settling and complacent. I am not saying that money is an awful thing. I'm not saying every high-earning man is unwholesome. However, if money is the main focus or the highest goal, then it becomes disordered. If you're a young woman who wants to get married, start a family while you're still young, and you want a man who's also young, then you should not base your standards off of what the red pill manosphere collective call high value.
Okay, so I wanted to we need to address a couple points here. Number one, yeah, if you're watching social media, then yeah, all these women want these guys making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. If you talk to women in real life, though, that's the majority of them don't know numbers like that. Because that's not who they're dating. Like I said, most women will never meet a man like that in their lifetime. But yet and still, people still out here getting married. In our community, they not as much getting married, but they still having kids. So there's something here that doesn't match up. Personal opinion, I think it's when the camera's on, that sounds good. That sounds like something good to say, but it's not what people are doing in real life. The other issue is that she brought up the manosphere and the RP community. I 100% agree. Don't get me wrong; those talking points work great when you're talking about, well, when your goal is to be a single man with no kids. That whole community works out great for men. But the minute you introduce family and having kids into that stuff, those talking points fall apart quicker than some Legos that fell down the stairs. Like it's just they don't match up. So I agree with her, and too many people are there's too much chatter on the internet, on social media, on YouTube, with this rhetoric that comes in. that doesn't take into account. This is one of the reasons why I wanted to start a YouTube channel that talks about average people. Because, if we listen to what social media tells us, then, you know, we are headed for a very dark place. But let's keep going. So far, I'm digging this video. I agree with her on a lot of this talking points. It's just little nuances, and it might seem like I'm nitpicking, but again, I do agree with her overall talking points.
There is no mention of character, no mention of piety. And if you do not take those things into consideration, then there will definitely be pitfalls. Firstly, when you're with this kind of powerful man, there's a higher risk that he's going to be unfaithful, as he may have a bigger ego, and there's no shortage of beautiful women who actively want to be with him for the same reasons. And when a worldly man has beautiful women throwing themselves at him, being faithful to one woman is more difficult and less enticing. I'm not saying these beautiful women are causing men to sin. When you sin, it is entirely your fault. But there are more temptations surrounding high-value men, which is why men in the manosphere and red pill collective weirdly try to reason that it's not unethical for a high-value man to cheat or to have a high body count. I'm not saying most high-value men cheat, but there is a higher proportion of them cheating. So even if you do want to attract this kind of man, there is competition. And
so yeah, she has a lot of talking points. She's hitting a lot of the key points, and it's coming in one video, which is cool. It should be noted that I don't call what high-value men do as cheating. Here's why. Because in most cases, that's more of an arrangement that both parties agree to. I mean, it's not cheating if you and your spouse are in agreement. That's just, something that you guys agreed upon. That most of the time, the women are agreeing to that because that's what it's going to take for him to get married in the first place. So I don't necessarily call it cheating. Do I think it's destructive behavior for a marriage? Yeah. Because of what she said before about when you've gone so many years with just having access to beautiful women who are constantly chasing after you, the idea that you're just going to, at the drop of a hat, you're just going to stop and be monogamous to one woman when you haven't practiced that, that's what you call a delusional man. So, but let's keep going. This is a good video.
Even if you do settle down with this type of man, you very well may not experience as much peace in the marriage because you are keenly aware of the fact that he has many options who are more or less throwing themselves at him. And that kind of thing would bother even the most secure of women. So, Does this type of man give you a lavish lifestyle, status, convenience, financial security, and belief? In spades. But what about lasting intimacy, peace, or a tight-knit family? And hey, I get it. We are women. We value a man who can provide for us with resources because we're the ones who get pregnant and give birth, and therefore we want a man who can provide for us so that when we get pregnant, we can focus on being pregnant and being present mothers. But the transient thrill of being with someone of high value and the exclusive material benefits that they can offer you very well may narrow the scope of your vision. This intense attraction ultimately comes from our fallen desire to seek security in the world and not from God. Money is ultimately just a tool to exchange value, a means by which we achieve our goals. And if money is our highest goal in itself, then our life becomes shallow and we forget its meaning. You also may not have as intimate of a marriage with a very high value man. These kinds of men are extremely ambitious and busy. They're total hustlers. I'm not only talking about celebrities, even doctors, lawyers, and lucrative business owners work around the clock. They are constantly busy and they enjoy being busy. How often are they going to slow down to be present with you and your family? They may view themselves being pillars of the family in only a financial sense. They may think, oh, I'm providing so much for you, that should be enough, when in reality you are aching for more of a connection and intimacy. Your children are aching for a more present father who isn't always texting clients on his phone or always has to travel for business. Personally,
facts. A lot of times we don't realize what type of lifestyle actually comes with dating a man of that stature. You're dating a workaholic. She asked the question, what happens to ambitions, or when do they slow down? They don't. Even in retirement, most of these men will start up something else. They'll leave one career and transition into another one. How do I know this? Because I've met a lot of these. I met a handful of these guys in my previous career, and yeah, they don't stop. It's nothing for them to work 60 hours a week. As you know, I was able to maintain that. I did that for about 90 days, where I was working 86 hours a week. It was during my wife's pregnancy, and this because she wasn't working. So it was like, okay, well, we were in a transition period where okay, we need to go ahead and make some other stuff happen. So literally, I was working 86 hours a week. There, you don't have time for anything else. That's it. But the type of man we're talking about, they're doing this by choice. They want to wake up every day and do it because this is what they're chasing after. This is their dream. So there is no slowing down. That man will always be out there trying to get it. He's not going to be at the, he's not going to go to the soccer game. He's not going to be at the kids' play. He's not taking them to football, like none of that stuff, because he's always on. So when you make that kind of money, I think that's another thing that we don't ever talk about is that, we're constantly preaching that, men need to make more money, be successful. At a certain point, there is a ceiling to that, because again, after you're making a certain amount of money, you're always on. It's like a doctor. You're always on call. Doesn't matter what business you're in. You're always on. So you have to, as long as you're comfortable with that, then go do it. Be successful. But I just think that a lot of times, because there's not that many individuals who are actually living that lifestyle, there's still a lot of a mystique surrounding it, and we don't really talk about it. All we talk about is the dreams of the lifestyle and all the benefits. We rarely ever talk about the negatives that come with that, especially in the aspect of a family. So yeah, so you're the stay-at-home wife and y'all got 2 kids. Understand that your man's not coming home to give you some relief. No, it's you and those kids. That's it. So when the kids are frustrated and getting on your nerves, and you want him and they worn you down, and you want him to come home and so just to cook dinner, just to take that off your plate, that's not gonna happen. Because again, he just worked 80 hours, and you expect him to be able to come home and do anything but sleep? No, that's not realistic. So it's something that you have to deal with. But again, as long as you know up front, then I have no issue with it. If that's the type of guy you're looking for, I just don't think most women think about that in advance.
I did not marry a high value man according to Kevin Samuels. He does not meet all of the criteria for being a high value man. He's high value to me, but he does not have it all figured out yet, and that's fine. Most men don't get their stuff together financially for a long time. Most men earn more as time goes on, but in their mid-20s, most men are not very high earners, and that is okay. It does not mean that they're low quality and that they don't deserve a good woman's attention. I do not want to make it sound like I settled. My husband is very handsome, he's incredibly bright, he's a very hard worker, and he's financially responsible, and he loves me, but he's not an incredibly high earner, and he does not have a high status. And that
Translation, she's attracted to more than just money. Imagine that. A woman on YouTube that says that, yes, I value more than just money. Or let me rephrase it. I value more than just salary, which is a poor predictor of personal finances anyway. So, but no, I agree with her. This is why the vetting process is so important. Because again, ladies, the few of you that are watching, your father is going to when he looks at the merit of a man, the guy that you bring to him, he doesn't care how tall he is or how fine he is. Him having a high income skill or a high paying job factors in, yes, but not as much as it does to you ladies, because we still want to know that man has character, that he's just not just going to run you over and then, dip out and whenever he feels like it and leave you broke and destitute. Again, if I'm your father and it's my job to protect you, the man that I'm going to hand you over to, I only want to hand you over to one man. I don't need you coming back and then I have to protect you again. The whole point is we're going to get this right the first time. So we only have to do it one time. So yes, we vet for other things besides, well, he's going to be rich. That's not enough. Because that only goes so high. After that point, he's got to have some other things going on. But this is not a video about vetting, so we need to get back on topic.
In that vein, he'd be pejoratively considered just a regular guy by many people. And while I may lack a high status wealthy husband, he still gives me so much. My husband is an avid gardener. He's actually using the backyard space to grow dozens of corn. He has a plethora of vegetables and finely pruned fruit trees. He can build just about anything out of wood, and whenever something is leaking or broken, he can either fix it himself. He knows exactly where to get a good deal, or he'll learn how to do it himself. Many high-value men are so caught up in the corporate world that they couldn't even mow their own lawn. With this type of modest lifestyle, you're also not going to be distracted by an excess of material things because of an excess of money. You'll experience sacrifice by perhaps needing to live more frugally, which will help you grow spiritually. You'll likely be more grateful for what you do have. Plus, many younger average men are setting themselves up for success later in life and will rise over time. I also have a pretty strong inkling that after women get married to rich men and settle into their lifestyle, it just becomes typical. A lavish lifestyle doesn't seem all that lavish when it's all you've experienced for such a long time. It just becomes your new normal, and you may end up yearning for the kinds of things you could have had you focused less on finding a high-value man, as the manosphere red pill folk define the term, and focused more on finding a godly man, even if you had to settle for a more modest lifestyle. I am definitely not here to invalidate positive experiences that women have had with high-earning men. My ultimate point is that what's truly important in a man is not his status. It's not whether he runs an incredibly lucrative business or whether he earns six figures. What's important is that he's a hard worker, that he can take care of you and perhaps your growing family, that he's repentant and earnestly loves and respects you. I know firsthand how attractive lots of money and status is, but that emphatically does not make a good husband. If we remain devoted to worldly things and enslaved to our fallen desires, then we're not too dissimilar to those who completely reject or ignore their femininity. Our femininity then becomes a shallow raiment whose only purpose is to live in unappreciated luxury. Even in the Bible, it says, "No man can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will hold to the one and despise the other. Ye cannot serve God and mammon." Matthew 6:24. Mammon means riches and the worship of them. So while we desire our needs to be met and we need to do our part every day, God comforts us and instructs us, "Behold the fowls of the air, for they sow not, neither do they reap nor gather into barns, yet your heavenly Father feedeth them. Are ye not much better than they? But seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you." We must also deeply consider why we even seek to be married in the first place. Is it for our own pleasure or for the sake of our salvation and to glorify the Lord? To this end, I recommend seeking pious men who likewise seek God first in all things. Ultimately, a devout man who quote-unquote merely provides a modest lifestyle is not to be overlooked. Thank you all so much for watching, and hopefully I'll hear from you in the comments.
Okay, so a little bit of Christian shaming language there at the end. I think that, well, as I always say, approach these topics like a salad bar. Take what you want, leave the rest. That being said, I think there was a lot of knowledge in here, and she hit some major talking points from the stance of, again, if we approach this as, okay, the vast majority of the population will never meet a high value man and are not going to be them. So that means that we need to focus in on more average men and women. What do they bring to, what are the benefits? And she actually had a section that said that, and I was like, oh, okay, this is regular guy benefits. That's something that we very rarely talk about on YouTube. And I think we need to spend more time doing that because, again, especially in when you're talking about building a community, communities are built with average people. And usually the best way to do that is through the nuclear family, i.e. marriage. But if there are if we never talk about what the benefits are for being with an average person versus some mythological person that we'll never, the chances are we're never going to meet in our lifetime. I mean, what are we expecting to happen there? So it's definitely an informative video. I'm gonna check out some more of Jasmine's channel, see if there's anything other conversations that we need to address, some other talking points that we need to have. Again, I agree with her. It might seem like I was trying to pick apart her video, but that wasn't the case. Like I said, for the most part, I agree with her. I think she has some great talking points. There was some things that she was off on, but yeah, that's debatable. Like I said, I'm always open to the possibility that I could be wrong, but these are a lot of the stuff I said was my opinions, except the stuff on income, because I have to look that up because, again, money is part of the channel. So, but great conversation. Guys, let me know what you think in the comments. I'm going to say goes to the next time. Peace.